Heavenly encounter. Soldiers NDE confirms Jesus' sacred warning of a divine shift in 40 days. Thomas stood in the parish, surrounded by familiar faces, the air alive with whispers of hope and uncertainty. On this foggy Wednesday evening, the church bells rang a solemn melody, fitting for a soldier contemplating the storm of impending deployment. The villagers filled the wooden pews in fervent prayer, their hearts united in search of divine comfort and protection. As Pastor Elias led the meeting, the Holy Spirit danced among them, and it felt as though heaven itself had descended, illuminating the chapel with a grace that stirred the very soul. Amidst the simplicity of their prayers, a child, long beset by illness that doctors deemed incurable, stepped forth, miraculously restored. She laughed, her joyous voice echoing off the stone walls, a sound so pure it could silence the hounds of doubt that lurked at the edges of faith. Gasps filled the room, spilling into the village like wildfire. "God is with us!" someone shouted, the words igniting a fervor that crumbled the barriers of skepticism. Days stretched like an eternity until the reality of the battlefield crashed down on Thomas. An ambush shattered the silence of war, explosions shook the earth, and somehow, amidst chaos, Thomas found himself at the edge of life and death. In those fleeting moments, a blinding light enveloped him, and he beheld a figure, serene and radiant, Jesus, face aglow with love. "The time is near," he proclaimed, each word resonating with power. "A divine shift awaits your village in 40 days. Prepare your hearts, miracles will challenge your faith." Before he knew it, Thomas awoke, alive but forever changed. He staggered back to the village, burdened by his revelation. Heart pounding, he gathered the villagers, his voice trembling with urgency. "Something immense is about to unfold. Miracles! Hope!" But the reception was mixed, curiosity tinged with skepticism. Pastor Elias, the once unwavering pillar of faith, urged caution. "Be careful, Thomas. The heart can deceive." "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Despite the growing whispers of doubt, Thomas sought refuge in prayer, leading a small group of steadfast believers who refused to let go of hope. They gathered every evening in the chapel, their voices trembling as they harmonized in hymns that pierced the night, reaching for the heavens. And slowly, the village began to awaken to the impossible, a reconciliation of a couple torn apart by bitterness, a farmer finding prosperity after years of drought, dreams bursting forth with prophetic revelations. As day 40 approached, the air buzzed with anticipation. The villagers, initially skeptical, now breathed in the miraculous, their hearts drawing closer to the one who could transform their lives. Yet, within Thomas, a flicker of fear remained. What if they expected too much? What if the divine did not respond as anticipated? He knelt before the altar, the weight of their faith pressing on his shoulders. The chapel, once a haven, now felt like a storm gathering. As he gazed at the flickering candles, Thomas wondered, could he truly believe, and would they be ready for the great shift that loomed on the horizon? That bittersweet question hung heavy in the air, as divine mystery cloaked the village, awaiting the revelation that would bind them all in unity, or divide them irretrievably. The morning sun rose lazily over the village, splashing its golden rays upon dew-kissed flowers. Thomas stepped outside, the crisp air filling his lungs with a sense of new beginnings. Today marked the culmination of the 40 days he had been warned about, a day cloaked in mystery and promise. As he walked towards the chapel, a quiet nervousness fluttered in his heart. Would they see what he saw? Would miracles manifest in their midst? As he neared the church, the echoes of laughter and chatter drew him in. Villagers, once burdened by doubt, were now gathered in spirited conversation. It seemed as if an unspoken anticipation electrified the air. Thomas allowed a small smile to creep onto his face. The atmosphere felt alive, filled with an energy that whispered, "Something beautiful is about to happen." Inside, the wooden pews were adorned with fresh wildflowers, their fragrance lifting the spirits of all who entered. Pastor Elias stood at the front, the twinkle in his eyes betraying his earlier caution. His voice rang out, weaving a tapestry of faith, hope, and community. Today, we stand on the threshold of God's promise. Let us open our hearts fully to what He has planned for us. The congregation responded with a chorus of Amen that surged like a wave across the room. Thomas felt the familiar warmth of the Holy Spirit wash over him, igniting his conviction. He joined the villagers in prayer, hands clasped, hearts united, calling upon the heavens to reveal the next chapter of their lives. Moments stretched and flowed like a river. Suddenly, the townsfolk were interrupted by a sound from beyond the stained glass doors. Gasps rippled through the crowd as an elderly man, known for his bitterness and sorrow, rushed in. He looked as if he were transformed by an unseen force, his face radiant, his eyes sparkling like morning dew. "I've seen it! A vision! A great light filled my room, and I heard the voice of the Lord." Whispers quickly turned into a frenzied excitement. Thomas's heart raced. Could this be the first of many miracles? Could this moment ignite the faith of the entire village? Before he could contemplate further, the doors burst open again. A young girl staggered in, her mother close behind. The girl, once crippled and frail, now stood tall and proud, laughing with the exuberance of new life, her legs healed before their eyes. The congregation erupted into praises, their voices lifting higher and higher, reaching for the heavens, drowning out the skepticism that once held them in thrall. Yet amidst the jubilation, Thomas felt an unsettling stirring. It was not the joy alone. It was the apprehension that crept back into his heart like an unwelcome shadow. What if this was just the beginning? What if amid joy, disappointment lingered around the corner? He looked toward Pastor Elias, who was glancing back with a knowing smile but concerned eyes. "Have faith," Thomas whispered to himself, repeating the mantra like a prayer, hoping his heart would absorb the truth of his conviction. As if sensing his turmoil, the congregation fell quiet, a hush enveloping the room. They turned toward Thomas, anticipation and questions shimmering in their eyes. He stood, compelled by an inner pull to share his journey and the encounter with Jesus that had ignited their spiritual awakening. "Friends," he began, his voice steadying with each word. "I saw the light. I felt His love. Great things await us, but we must believe." In that moment, the air thickened with divine expectancy. What lay ahead was unknown, a tapestry of miracles yet to be woven. Thomas felt the stirring of something profound. Would they embrace the coming revelation, or would fear hold them back? A gentle whisper seemed to cascade down from heaven, coaxing the villagers forward. They looked to Thomas, ready for his words. All awaited the next revelation, the unfolding of their shared destiny. What would God unleash upon them in the coming moments? The silence in the chapel was almost deafening, a heavy pause laden with hope and trepidation. The villagers leaned closer, straining to hear each word Thomas spoke. He felt their eyes on him, a warm fire igniting his spirit. "Today isn't just a day of miracles," he continued, his voice rising with certainty. "It is a day of change. A new beginning that requires each of us to step beyond our fears and doubts." Suddenly, a soft rustling came from the back of the room. The village elder, a wise woman known for her prayers and discernment, slowly stood up. Her silver hair shimmered like the sun, and her hands trembled slightly as she raised them in the air. "Thomas," she called out, her voice steady, though her eyes brimmed with tears. "You speak of faith as if it is a choice. But what if it requires sacrifice? What if to believe means we must let go of our old selves and trust in the unknown?" A hush fell upon the congregation as they absorbed her words. Thomas understood, for this was the challenge they all faced. The promise of God was beautiful, but faith brought its own trials. "With every miracle comes a test," he replied, a fire igniting in him. "What you say is true, dear elder. We must be willing to shed our burdens, just like the old barn that must be torn down before a new one can rise in its place." Murmurs of agreement arose, weaving through the crowd. The nervous energy began to change, shifting into something vibrant and hopeful. Hearts were being stirred, and Thomas felt the power of God resting upon him. As the pastor stepped forward to join him, a sudden gust of wind blew through the open doors, causing the wildflowers to dance. Pastor Elias turned his face toward the light streaming through the windows. "The Spirit is moving among us," he proclaimed, his voice resounding with authority. "Let us not only witness these miracles but actively participate in the manifestation of God's will." Thomas watched as a few hands shot up among the congregation, eager to speak. An elderly man, once skeptical and confined to his doubt, stood to declare, "I have felt the change within me. Even my heart aches less now. I want to let go. I want to be healed." The force of his words resonated throughout the room, igniting a ripple of passion. One by one, others began to rise. A woman spoke about her lifelong struggle with grief, while a young man shared his burdens of addiction. Each confession wove deeper into the fabric of the gathering, creating a tapestry of vulnerability and faith. Thomas could see it barely at first, like the first glimmer of dawn, then with clarity. Something beautiful was taking shape. They were exposing their wounds while offering them to the Lord, allowing light to flood in where darkness had long dwelled. He raised his hands, inviting the congregation to join him in prayer. "Together, let us surrender what no longer serves us. Let us turn our pain into purpose." As they prayed, a bright light filled the room, shimmering with warmth. It was as though the ceiling had lifted, and heaven had come down among them. Tears flowed freely now, evidence of release and healing. Thomas glanced at Pastor Elias and saw the same awe mirrored in his mentor's eyes. It was a moment of divine exchange, one known only to those who dared to open their hearts fully. But in that glorious unveiling, Thomas felt an unsettling tug again, that familiar whisper of doubt weaving back in. What change lay ahead? Would they all be strong enough when faced with trials, with the challenges that even great faith could not shield them from? As the light enveloped each villager, those questions mingled with the whispers of possibility. They were at the precipice of something grand, yet still cloaked in mystery. What lay beyond the light? What specifics of God's will could be revealed to them next? The atmosphere bristled with potential, and Thomas knew they were on the verge of a greater understanding, a revelation that perhaps, just perhaps, would change them all forever. As the light continued to swirl and dance around them, Thomas could feel a powerful energy shift within the chapel. The weight of their confessions had lifted, yet in its place, a different kind of tension simmered, a solemn anticipation of what was to come. Eyes that had once been downcast now sparkled with a newfound hope and determination. "Let us not stop now," Thomas urged gently, his heart swelling with the collective faith that hung in the air. "Let this be a catalyst for change. Let each testimony not only touch our hearts but also ignite our wills to act." The elderly elder lowered her hands, a sacred silence hushed her spirit, yet her eyes held an undeniable fire. She stepped forward again. "Dear friends, change does often demand us to step into the unknown. But in my years," she said, now eyeing each member of the congregation, "I have learned that it's also in our vulnerability that we find strength." At her words, a ripple surged through the crowd. A younger woman rose, trembling slightly as she spoke. "I used to hide from my uncertainty, thinking fear would protect me. But now I understand that my wounds are not my defeat, but my story of survival." Her voice wavered but gathered strength as she continued, driven by unseen hands of courage. "I want to step into this light. I want to turn my pain into something beautiful. I will be vulnerable with my struggles and allow God to weave them into a testimony." Cheers of encouragement filled the air as that brave confession seemed to draw out even deeper truths. One by one, others began to share, words leaking freely like a dam opening. As they spoke, it became evident that alongside their struggles, each heart carried dreams of healing, redemption, and purpose. Suddenly, amidst their fervor, a small boy stood up in the back, his youthful face a picture of innocence and sincerity. "I saw the light!" he exclaimed, his tiny voice breaking through the adult's murmur. "I saw it when I closed my eyes and prayed last night. It filled my room and told me not to be afraid." Every heart in the chapel swelled with awe, carried by the pure faith of a child. Thomas felt his pulse race, as the boy's declaration shimmered with truth. Could this be the revelation they all needed? A simple message laced with profound simplicity. Don't be afraid. Pastor Elias stepped forward, his face illuminated with joy. Let us embrace this light, my friends, like children. Let us surrender our fears and trust that God is crafting a masterpiece within each of us. The villagers began to chant softly, "We trust. We trust." It felt as if walls were crumbling down, and shadows of doubt were retreating. Yet, even as the energy surged, Thomas's heart wrestled against an inner turmoil. Was this truly just the beginning? What if they would soon face trials they could not predict? He pondered silently, looking around at the faces, some radiant with hope, while others flickered with uncertainty. Amidst the cries of faith and unity, he felt that unmistakable tug again, the whispers of an unseen battle ahead. And with it came a revelation that struck deep. Could it be that the real miracles often await on the other side of surrender? As the light enveloped them all, uniting their spirits, Thomas understood that this journey was not merely about feeling uplifted. They would need to navigate the valleys and shadows that might soon come between them and their promise. What would they encounter as they left this sacred space? What tests would clarify their true commitment? The question hung in the air as the light dimmed just slightly, hinting at the mysteries that still lay ahead. They were about to venture into a realm where their faith would be molded and refined. What challenges would shape them, and how would they respond? As the echoes of their shared courage filled the chapel, one resounding thought gripped Thomas: the journey truly had just begun. As the congregation settled back into a hushed reverence, the atmosphere thickened with a mixture of expectation and trepidation. Sensing the shift, Thomas stood silently, wrestling with thoughts he couldn't yet articulate. The warm embrace of shared faith surrounded him, but deep down, he sensed a stirring, a call to prepare for something mighty and transformative. Every journey has its shadows, a voice floated from the side, drawing his attention. It was Miriam, an older woman known for her gentle spirit and intuitive wisdom. Her silver hair framed her face like a halo, and her eyes sparkled with depth. "We find our strengths in both the light and the dark, my friends." Nods of agreement spread silently among the villagers, as she continued. "The light we feel today may soon be tested. Our hearts need to be ready, steadfast and unwavering, for trials can come disguised as the very lessons we've longed for." A ripple of silence followed, each heart absorbing her words like a healing balm. Thomas could see it in their faces. Some felt fear creeping back, while others gleaned hope from her wisdom. "Miriam is right," he finally spoke, his voice gentle yet firm. "We might face challenges ahead. But I believe that these challenges will reveal the depth of our commitment, the authenticity of our faith." Elder Miriam stepped closer, the energy in the chapel shifting again as she gestured to the ornate stained glass windows which bathed them in a spectrum of colors. "Remember, my friends, even the brightest light can cast shadows. But it is in those shadows we truly learn who we are, and who God has called us to be. Embrace the journey, knowing His promises stand strong." The children around them fidgeted, giggling softly, their innocence a reminder of the divine simplicity that persisted even in uncertainty. Thomas caught sight of the small boy from earlier, still beaming, and felt a pang of warmth wash over him. "Look at our young brother," he said, pointing. "His faith is unshakable." Children understand this truth innately. They trust wholeheartedly. Soon, voices began to rise in a cacophony of affirmations, yet they echoed in harmony. "We will trust! We will trust!" Each participant seemed to draw strength from the collective outpouring, if only for a moment. But in Thomas's heart, an unshakable thought remained, a conviction that the call to faith would soon take them into uncharted waters. "We must act swiftly," he urged, his tone reflecting both urgency and reverence. "Let us make plans, not just for moments like these, but for our actions beyond the chapel. We must serve our community, reach out into the uncertain, and lend a hand where light is desperately needed." As dawn's golden rays filtered into the chapel, illuminating the faces of both the brave and the hesitant, a renewed sense of purpose emerged. They weren't just witnesses, they were participants in a grand tapestry of faith. "Let us gather our hearts and minds," Thomas proposed. Let us commit to being vessels of light in a world yearning for hope. We'll embark on this journey together, hand in hand. A magnitude of consent swept across the congregation, faces lit, hearts ablaze. Yet, just as their spirits soared, a profound stillness washed over the chapel. It was as if the air around them thickened, a hush cascading over their hopes. Indeed, a whisper echoed like a gentle breeze, sending chills down Thomas's spine. What if these very acts of service lead us to confront a darkness we've long avoided? What if our greatest obstacles have yet to reveal themselves? A quiet fear gripped him, a question echoing throughout each heart present. Would they find the strength needed when challenges beckoned? As hope and uncertainty intermingled, they understood that this journey might redefine their faith in ways they could never imagine. What awaited them in the world beyond those holy walls? Would their hearts remain steadfast when faced with the unknown? Thomas felt a shift in the atmosphere, preparing him for battles he couldn't predict but knew were coming. Their mission lay ahead, and with it, a divine destiny yet to unfold. As the whispers of uncertainty faded into the fragile air, Thomas felt an urge to lead his people forward, through the shadows that loomed ahead. The sunlight streaming through the windows created kaleidoscopes of color upon the floor, but even these beautiful hues seemed to deepen the gravity of their situation. Elder Miriam's gaze lingered on the radiant panes, a tender smile softening the worry creasing her brow. Remember, dear ones, any storm may also bring forth the rain we need. When the heavens open, life springs anew. Our spirits must remain open too. Her words hung delicately, reminding every heart present of a divine cycle both beautiful and daunting. With a gentle nod, Thomas rallied with clarity. Let us prepare, then. We will form groups, different ones focused on taking action. Whether it's sharing meals with the hungry or offering care to the weary, we shall be a beacon of light. The crowd stirred. A soft buzz of excitement began to grow. There was something contagious about hope. It spread swiftly, wrapping around the congregation as they began to feel empowered by a purpose larger than themselves. As volunteers sprang forth, hands raised, eager to engage with the possibilities, Thomas felt the warmth of unity surrounding him. Laughter echoed among the children as they chased dreams birthed from the desire to help. But beneath this joyful camaraderie, an undercurrent of apprehension simmered. Was it truly wise to march forth into possible troubles? While the flurry continued around him, Thomas took a step back, closing his eyes to seek a moment of divine connection. He inhaled, the scent of aged wood and burning candles filling his senses. In this stillness, he felt a sensation wash over him like a familiar embrace. Lord, he whispered, guide us in our journey ahead. Help us see beyond our fears, reveal the truth of your light. As he opened his eyes, he caught sight of that young boy again, eyes wide, face aglow with innocent faith. Somehow, the child's unwavering trust brought a sense of peace that gently quieted the storm within him. The boy took a brief pause from his play and looked straight at Thomas, his expression suddenly earnest. Are we really going to help everyone? He asked, the simplicity of his question striking deep. Yes, my brother, Thomas replied, kneeling to meet the boy's gaze. We are. Together. Their exchange pulled a few others close. They too yearned to hear the answer. The boy's smile returned, radiant and unfiltered, shining with the essence of pure belief. Then I'll help too. We can be like superheroes. Laughter erupted, the collective mood lifting momentarily despite the deeper issues waiting on the horizon. Yet as the joy spread, a shadow darted through Thomas's mind. What if the boy's enthusiasm masked a truth he didn't yet grasp? Children can be our greatest teachers, he recalled from Miriam's wisdom. But what did that mean when darkness took shape? Gradually, as the children scuttled off to prepare sketches for their project, an unexpected chill wrapped around Thomas again. A troubling vision of trouble began to form inside him, not unlike a dream glimmering in half-light. What battles were they truly to face? A collective awareness of vulnerability submerged beneath their newly formed joy, a stark reminder that faith and fear danced hand in hand. Just then, an uncertain voice broke the rising fervor. What if we fail? A beleaguered member spoke up, the audience falling into stunned silence. Murmurs of doubt rippled through the air, stirring chaos within the hearts that had just begun to uplift together. What if, instead of failure, Thomas ventured, lifting his chin higher, we discover strength we never knew we had? A gasp swept through the congregation. It felt risky, too optimistic, yet oddly compelling. Spurred by a sudden gust of courage, Thomas braved the tender thoughts swirling inside him. Perhaps our faith will redefine itself through our struggles and victories alike. We will stand together, hand in hand, ready to engage even the shadows. With the weight of his charge settling in the room, he added with earnest conviction, let us brace ourselves for whatever may come. The greatest light shines brightest through adversity. But as his words hung in the air, a piercing gust of wind whipped outside, rustling the leaves and stirring unease deep down. In that moment, every face turned towards the entryway, hearts synced with a mysterious tension. What awaited us beyond this afternoon's promise? Were these murmurs of doubt a warning, a harbinger of the trials now approaching? The congregation felt it, the rapid heartbeat of fate pounding at their door. Thomas could sense a significant encounter on the horizon, beckoning a profound truth. And so, with feet firmly planted, they stepped into the light, ready for the uncharted path that lay ahead, for greater revelations awaited them just beyond the curve of faith's embrace. As the congregation stood in the amber light, a palpable hush wrapped around them like a sacred blanket. Breath held, eyes wide, they seemed a blend of anticipation and trepidation. Thomas felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The words of Elder Miriam echoed softly in his heart, reminding him that storms brought rain, and with rain came nourishment. An urging spirit washed over him, igniting courage anew. Let us not only stand in faith but act in love. Step forward, all who feel called, he proclaimed, his voice steady and vibrant, cutting through the lingering doubts that tethered so many. One by one, individuals began to shuffle forward, hesitant at first, but soon merging into a collective flow, as if the Spirit itself was drawing them into an embrace of purpose. At the forefront, the young boy sprang forth, his eyes twinkling with bubbling excitement. What's our first mission, Thomas? We can't just stand here, right? There was a spark in the child's exuberance that rekindled embers of hope in the hearts of those gathered. Right you are. Thomas smiled broadly. We need to reach out to those who may feel alone. Let us form groups to visit the elderly and the sick. Let them know that they are not forgotten. We will share the warmth of our hearts, and carry forth the message of love. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. It was true, the gentle hands of kindness were needed, now more than ever. The crowd broke into clusters, eager to spring into action, envisioning how their offerings could transform lives. The air vibrated with the promise of connection, birthing new resolve among those who were willing to step into the unknown. As teams formed, Thomas felt an urgency swell, a subtle nudge in his spirit. Remember, he called out, each act of kindness is a light piercing through the darkness. Their laughter mingled with shared determination, nurturing hope as they began their journey down the winding path that led toward their neighbors' homes. Along the way, pockets of community sprang to life, catching glimpses of joy and shared stories. Each step forward felt like anointing grace, healing both giver and receiver. But soon enough, clouds gathered. The air thickened, tinged with an unsettling chill. It was as though the world had shifted beneath their feet. Discomfort rippled through the groups, casting shadows on the brightness they had begun to kindle. A shifting breeze whispered through the trees, carrying remnants of doubt along with an unfamiliar sound, the distant echoes of a tumultuous storm. The laughter faded. Anxiety gripped some, and glances exchanged spoke volumes of the fear simmering beneath the surface. Children, Thomas began, sensing their unease, in these times of uncertainty, remember that our guiding light is undiminished. Even when shadows stretch before us, our mission remains firm. Hold fast to one another, and let love illuminate the path. Just as he spoke, another gust howled, swirling leaves around them, painting a surreal vision against the cloudy sky. It pierced through the laughter, demanding attention. Hearts quickened as visions of struggle began to murmur in their minds. From among the gathered, a voice of experience rose. What if we are met with rejection? What if they turn away rather than embrace our efforts? Thomas felt a hush fall over the crowd. The fear that lurked quickly found voice, just as his heart sank at the reality of their mission. dear friends, he replied, feeling the urgency intensify within him. We must move forward not for praise, but to fulfill our calling. To give love is the greatest gift we can offer, regardless of their response. The moments hung, suspended, weaving doubts with the thread of faith. Every face before him seemed suspended between courage and hesitation. It was then that Thomas felt a stirring within, an awareness that their encounter with the world awaited them. With renewed determination, he took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of divine hope into his words. We can face the storms together. Together we can transcend our fears. The shadows may loom, but our light remains unbroken. Will you step forth with me into this challenge? And just as hope rekindled in their hearts, a vibrant flash of brilliant light sliced through the encroaching storm. It dazzled their eyes and pierced through their uncertainty, awakening something profound. The congregation drew together in a circle, hands joined, hearts unified, poised on the precipice of their evolving journey. But with this startling illumination came a deeper question: what lay beyond this glow? What divine twists awaited them in the days pressing forth? With each heartbeat, they felt the tide of faith both challenge and inspire their choices. What revelations awaited just beyond the horizon? Would they find strength in their struggles, or would the storm threaten to drown them in fear? Only time would reveal the answers hidden in this dance of divine beckoning. With hands clasped, an electric energy hummed between the congregation, wrapping them in a shelter of unity. The brilliant light flickered above like a promise, radiating warmth that chased away the chill of doubt. As they stood together, a shared resolve ignited within them. Thomas felt a surge of purpose, filling him from head to toe. Friends, look at how the light unites us even now. The journey ahead will test our hearts, but let us walk in faith, knowing we are never alone. He noticed a glimmer of hope flicker back to life in the eyes of the young boy. Thomas, the child said, voice trembling with excitement, what do we do when we reach them? Ah, that's where the beauty lies, Thomas replied. We listen. We share stories. We invite connection. Sometimes, a warm smile or a listening ear can bring light where there was only darkness. As they embarked, the looming storm in the distance roared ominously, serving as both an omen and a challenge. Yet with every step, they breathed deeper, gathering strength from one another. Each laugh, smile, and whisper of encouragement became like pieces of armor against the encroaching shadows. Suddenly, a voice rang out from a cluster of women nearby. Let us not just stop at the elderly. What about the lonely ones? The burdened ones in our own homes? Her passion sparked nods of agreement. Yes. Another added, enthusiasm bubbling over. We could carry food, flowers, even write a note. Little things that speak of big love. Inspired, the momentum swelled, voices rising in a near chorus. They formed teams, each group setting out towards their own paths. Laughter broke forth, filling the air like the music of hope, even as ominous clouds swallowed the sun. But as the congregation ventured deeper into the neighborhoods, darkness crept closer. The winds howled. Doubt clung like fog, wrapping tight around their intentions. At the first home, they paused before a small, unkempt yard. A single light flickered softly through the windows, hinting at life within. This is it, Thomas said, steeling himself. We'll knock, and in our knocking, let our hearts speak. As they approached, the anxious knot in his stomach twisted. He knocked, hesitating before a weary voice echoed back. Who is it? Hello, Thomas spoke gently. We are your neighbors, here to share love and kindness. Can we come in? Silence lingered, stretching the moment into a fragile thread. Then, the door creaked open, revealing an elderly woman with kind eyes that sparkled amid her lined face. As she stepped closer, a soft smile broke through her uncertainty. Love has come to visit, she breathed. In that instant, something shifted. The air lightened, hope blooming like new flowers at springtime. The group was invited inside, hearts racing with anticipation of connection. As they settled around her faded sofa, a whirlwind of stories unfurled. Laughter mingled with joyful tears. Thomas bore witness to the sacred transformation taking root. Each word shared, each empathetic glance, spun a web of love thick enough to withstand the looming storm. Yet the clouds outside churned more fiercely, throwing shadows across their joyous gathering. Just as an unexpected clap of thunder rumbled overhead, the old woman's laughter cut through the tension like a knife. "I have waited for this," she exclaimed, eyes bright with gratitude. In that moment, Thomas realized that every encounter held a profound mystery. Could the storm have been a blessing in disguise? Perhaps their greatest trials would unveil the most extraordinary blessings. As they wrapped up their visit, a surge of excitement pulsed through Thomas. This was only the beginning. He sensed with every encounter, every act of love, a powerful shift was building. As the last words exchanged turned into vows of continued connection, Thomas looked at the gathered group. "We must continue, friends. Who else needs us? Hold on to the light and let us follow where it may lead." With that, renewed anticipation washed over them all. They stepped out, resolute and eager, ready to face whatever awaited on the path ahead. But as the gusts of wind howled louder, Thomas felt questions rising in the depths of his spirit. What else would they uncover in their mission ahead? Was there even more to this storm than they yet understood? With hearts pounding, they set forth into the gathering dark, drawn by the light of purpose, yet tinged with the questions of what awaited just over the horizon. As the group ventured out, the wind howled and the air thickened with a sense of urgency. Thomas led them down the path, heart pounding not from fear, but from anticipation. Each step forward was a promise forged in faith. "We're called to be light-bearers," he reminded them as they moved together, each stride a declaration against the dark clouds swirling above. Their next destination was a modest home at the corner of Maple Street. It was surrounded by a desolate garden, with weeds overtaking what once might have been a vibrant patch of flowers. Thomas felt pulled to it, sensing a deeper need hidden behind the battered shutters. "This place it holds stories waiting to be uncovered," he whispered, rallying the determined spirits around him. They approached the door, hearts synchronizing with the rhythm of purpose. Thomas raised his hand, likelihoods swirling in his mind, then knocked. The sound echoed, reverberating through the air like a prayer offered up to heaven. A long pause followed, taut with tension. Was it only hesitation, or a deeper suffering held back? The door finally creaked open, revealing a middle-aged man with weary eyes and wrinkled skin. He stood on the threshold, as if measuring their intentions. "Can we help you?" Thomas asked, letting compassion spill from his heart. There was a quiver of uncertainty in the man's stance. "I don't know if I'm ready for visitors," he replied, casting a glance back into the shadowy interior. But something in Thomas's eyes, a light, maybe, or a warmth, compelled him to step aside, opening the door wider. "Perhaps we are exactly what you need," he said gently, moving inside without waiting for any further invitation. The group followed, shedding their prior hesitations as they stepped into the dim living room, thick with silence. A flickering candle on the table seemed to pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats. The room felt heavy with memories, a tapestry woven of joy and sorrow, telling unspoken tales. As they settled onto worn seats, the man took a deep breath and slowly began to share his story. "My name is Aaron," he said, voice trembling but resolute. "I lost my wife last year. We were supposed to grow old together, but well, life had other plans." Tears glistened in his eyes, each drop a testament to his pain. In the silence that followed, hearts ached in response. One by one, they reached out, offering their own stories of loss and love, weaving connections in the air thicker than the darkness enveloping the home. They shared laughter, memories, and even quiet tears. It felt sacred, the openness, the vulnerability, the healing. Then, just as hope began to break through the sorrow, a sudden crash echoed outside. Startled, they all turned towards the window. The storm had turned aggressive, rain beating down like a drum, carrying with it the whispers of the unseen. But in that moment, amidst the chaos beyond their little refuge, Thomas sensed something monumental unfolding. "Aaron," he said, voice steady, "you are not alone anymore. We're here with you, and we want to walk this path together." Aaron's eyes glimmered as he looked around at the assembled group. "Could it really be that simple?" he asked, his voice a mixture of disbelief and yearning. "It is in the simplest things," Thomas assured him. "We might not have the answers now, but we're meant to be a source of light for one another. There is power in connection." As the storm raged outside, the warmth within that small room transformed the atmosphere. They began to pray together, each breath lifting the heaviness, every word sealing their newly formed bond with the divine. Light filled the space, igniting hearts with fervor and peace. As their prayer deepened, Thomas's mind drifted. He felt a stirring within, a reminder that every soul encountered holds mysteries that can lead to profound revelation. What might we uncover next? He wondered, sensing that the storm was more than just weather. It was a catalyst for change both inside and out, beckoning them forward toward greater truths. Stepping back, he watched as the raindrops danced against the window, reflecting the light of hope they had ignited within. What awaited them next? A flicker of divine guidance stirred within. Whether blessing or challenge, Thomas knew they were destined to find out. With the storm unleashing its fury outside, a chorus of raindrops drummed against the windows like the heartbeat of God's presence. In the warmth of Aaron's home, the light of connection flickered and swelled, casting shadows of doubt away. The villagers, enveloped in shared stories and prayers, found their hearts interwoven in a tapestry of hope. Aaron, Thomas said, a gentle strength infusing his voice, we stand united not just as neighbors, but as family. In this moment, together, we weave each heart into the fabric of healing. As though in agreement, the congregation breathed in unison. The electrifying truth surged around the room. They were not merely individuals seeking solace but one collective body, stitched together by love and compassion. Every story we share has the power to mend wounds, Elder Miriam chimed in. Every laughter shared becomes a balm that eases hearts like soothing balm upon dried skin. Thunder rumbled like a distant roar, yet with it came a sense of sacred promise. A flicker of resolve sparked in Thomas's chest. Let us open our hearts wide, friends. Let us pray for Aaron, and all those bound by grief, he urged. Let this moment be one of surrender, where we bring our burdens before the Lord together. Almost instinctively, they joined hands in a circle, their spirits coalescing. As they called out in prayer, the storm outside mirrored their emotions, wild yet cleansing. Light streamed through cracks in the darkened clouds, bathing the congregation in a heavenly glow. In that moment, Thomas felt a wave of profound love pour forth from the heavens, saturating the room with an unmistakable peace. This storm rages outside, but inside us shines a beacon of hope. Aaron, you are not alone in your pain. We trudge this path beside you, he reaffirmed. With every word, their hearts grew impossibly lighter. Laughter following tears became sacred, like the first blossoms of spring after a harsh winter. It was powerful. It was transforming. They were stepping through the shadows, embracing both vulnerability and strength. As Aaron smiled through his tears, courage blossomed in his heart. Together we can face whatever awaits us, he said, his voice tremulous but determined. Then a remarkable stillness enveloped the group as a sudden hush fell upon them. Thomas could almost hear the heartbeat of hope reverberating through their souls. The storm felt distant now, its howling taken over by a serenity that lingered in the air. They sensed a shift, a divine whisper urging them forward. Emerging from this sacred sanctuary, hearts brimmed with purpose. We've got to keep going, Thomas declared, the fervor in his voice electrifying. Let us seek out those who might need us. More stories must be unveiled. Feeling empowered, they ventured back into the wild tempest. The rain, once threatening, became a welcome refreshment, each drop a reminder of God's promise, renewal and rebirth. Pushing through the storm, they reached the next home, smoother hearts intertwined, revealing yet another dimension of the community's soul. Thomas knocked and felt the tension of uncertainty return, but it was quickly overcome by the desire to serve, and soon they were welcomed in. Inside, a family struggled against the weight of grief. We need connection, a mother sighed, her voice heavy. We lost our joy in the storms of life. Gently, Thomas stepped forward. Let us share our light, he said, eyes warm with compassion. Stories flowed like honey after that, binding them through shared vulnerabilities. Laughter echoed amongst tears. It was miraculous. God's grace stitched their hearts together amid cycles of sorrow and joy, transforming burdens into testimonies. And so, their journey continued, a pilgrimage of love through the storm-swept village, touching every person they encountered, each connection a thread in a grand tapestry of faith and resilience. The clouds may have raged overhead, but within the hearts they tended bloomed a garden of hope. Days turned into weeks, each villager shedding fear, weaving strength where weakness used to dwell. It was a sacred shift, a movement accompanied by the sounds of joy breaking through despair. Finally, standing at the chapel once more, Thomas turned to the villagers as daylight streamed through the stained glass windows. Here we stand, a people transformed. We've faced storms, we've found light. Your faith holds power. Let this be a testimony of God's unwavering love. As the congregation erupted in shouts of praise, Thomas beamed, knowing they were ready to continue the divine mission, embracing the miracles that life would unfold. Now undeterred by shadows. In unity, they raised their voices. No longer just witnesses, we are champions of faith. Let us shine as beacons of love. The once ordinary village became a bright tapestry of hope and transformation, a testament to love's power. The journey not merely about encountering storms, but embracing divinely woven destinies. Hand in hand they stepped into the unfolding chapter ahead, hearts aflame with purpose, faith ignited, ready for whatever marvelous revelations lay just beyond the horizon. Now, friends, it is time for you to take action. If you felt the power of this story today, subscribe immediately to ensure you don't miss our next soul-stirring journey through faith. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread our message of hope to more hearts. And don't hold back, comment below your thoughts, your testimonies, and let us know how this ending impacted you. Lastly, share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness this manifestation of faith. You need to share the light today.